A Haunted House, Chapter 1. It's rare for regular people like John and me to rent old family homes for the summer. It is a big old house, maybe haunted. I think there's something odd about it. Why is it so cheap and empty for so long? John laughs at me, but that's normal in marriage. He's practical and doesn't believe in things he can't see or touch. He's a doctor, and maybe that's why I'm not getting better. He doesn't think I'm sick. My brother, who is also a doctor, says the same thing. What can I do? I take medicine and rest, but I can't entirely agree with them. I think work and change would help me. I tried writing secretly, but it tired me out. John says I shouldn't think about my condition, so I'll talk about the house instead. It's a beautiful place, like those in England. There's a lovely garden with paths and arbors. There used to be greenhouses, but they're broken now. The house has been empty for years due to legal issues. It has a spooky feeling. I told John about it, but he said it was just the wind. I am upset with John sometimes, more often than before. He says I need to control myself better. Chapter 2. I don't like our room. I wanted a different one, but John said no. He said there was only one window and no room for 2 beds. He is careful and loving. He hardly lets me walk without special directions. I have a schedule for each hour. He takes care of me. He said we came here for me to rest and get some fresh air. Your exercise depends on your strength, he said, and your food depends on your appetite, but you can always get air. So we took the nursery at the top of the house. It is a big, airy room with windows that look out on all sides and lots of sunshine. There's a playground and a gym. The windows are barred for kids, and there are rings on the walls. The paint and paper look as if a boys' school once used them. The paper is stripped off in big patches around my bed and on the other side of the room. I've never seen a worse paper in my life. It has a wild pattern, breaking every art rule. It is dull enough to confuse the eyes, but strong enough to irritate. When you follow the curves, they suddenly go crazy and contradict themselves. The color is awful, almost sickening, a dirty yellow, faded by sunlight. It is a dull orange in some places and yellow in others. No wonder the kids hated it. I would hate it too if I had to stay here too long. Here comes John, and I must put this away. He hates to see me write. Chapter 3. I am sitting by the window now in this awful nursery, and nothing stops me from writing except for lack of strength. John is away all day and some nights when his cases are serious. I am glad my condition is not serious, but I am very depressed. John does not know how much I suffer. He thinks there is no reason for suffering. He thinks it is only nervousness. It weighs on me not to do my duty. I want to help John to get rest and comfort. I am a burden. Nobody would believe how hard it is to do what little I can. Luckily, Mary is good with the baby. Such a dear baby. And yet it makes me so anxious to be around him. I guess John has never had anxiety in his life. He laughs at me about this wallpaper. At first, he wanted to repaper the room, but then he said I was letting it get the better of me, and nothing was worse for a nervous patient than to give in to her condition. He said after we changed the wallpaper, we might want to change the bed, then the windows, and then the gate at the stairs, too. You know the place is helping you, he said, and dear, I don't want to fix the house just for a 3-month stay. Then let us go downstairs, I said. There are such pretty rooms there. Then he hugged me, called me a silly goose, and said he would go down the cellar if I wished, and have it whitewashed, too. But he is right about the beds, windows, and other things. It is an airy and comfy room. It would be silly to make him uncomfortable just for a whim. I'm getting fond of the bedroom, except for that horrid paper. Out of one window I can see the garden with its shady arbors, old flowers and trees. Out of another I see the bay and a little dock. There is a pretty lane that runs down from the house to there. I always think I see people walking on these paths, but John asked me not to give in to my fancy. He said that with my imagination and story-making habit, my nervous weakness would lead to all kinds of wild ideas, and I should use my will and sense to stop them. Chapter 4. I think if I could write a bit, it would help me rest, but I get tired when I try. It's hard not to have any friends. John says when I'm better, we'll invite Cousin Henry and Julia, but he says having them now would be too much for me. I wish I could recover faster, but I must not think about that. This paper looks like it knows it's bad for me. There's a spot where the pattern looks like a broken neck and eyes. I get angry with its endlessness. Up and down and sideways, there are eyes everywhere. There's a place where the pattern doesn't match, and the eyes go up and down. I've never seen so much expression in a thing before. As a child, I had more fun with walls and furniture than with toys. I remember the knobs on our old wardrobe seeming to wink kindly, and one chair always felt like a strong friend. If things looked too scary, I could hop into that chair and feel safe. The furniture here is just mismatched because we brought it from downstairs. The children made a mess here. The wallpaper is torn in spots and fixed with glue. The floor is scratched and the plaster is dug out. The big bed looks like it's been through a war, but I don't mind it, only the paper. And here comes John's sister. She's so nice and careful with me. I must not let her see me writing. She's a perfect housekeeper and loves it. She thinks writing makes me sick, but I can write when she's out and stop when I see her coming. Chapter 5. The wallpaper has a hidden pattern. You can only see it in certain lights. In places where it's not faded, I see a strange shape. Chapter 6. The people are gone, and I'm tired. John thought seeing some company would help me, so we had our mother Nellie and the children for a week. I didn't do anything. Jenny took care of everything, but it tired me anyway. John says if I don't get better, he'll send me to Mitchell's place, but I don't want to go there. A friend of mine went there and said he's like John and my brother, but more so. Chapter 7. It's been a big trip so far. I don't feel like doing anything, and I get very grumpy. I cry a lot, mostly when I'm alone. John is often in town for work, and Jenny leaves me alone when I want. So I walk in the garden or sit on the porch. I lie down a lot in this room. I'm starting to like the room, even with the wallpaper. Maybe because of the wallpaper, it stays in my mind. I lie on this big bed and follow the pattern for hours. It's like exercise. I start at the bottom corner and try to follow the pattern. I know a bit about design, and this pattern doesn't follow any rules. It's repeated by the widths, but not by the lengths. But they also connect diagonally, creating big waves of confusion. I tried to figure out its order. One end of the room is almost intact. When the light is right, I can see a pattern. I feel tired of looking at it. I will take a nap. I don't know why I wrote this. I don't want to. I don't feel able. Chapter 8. John would think it was silly, but I must say what I feel. It's a relief, but the effort is getting harder. Half the time I'm lazy and lie down a lot. John says I mustn't lose my strength, so he gives me tonics. Dear John, he loves me and hates to see me sick. I tried to talk to him about visiting Cousin Henry and Julia, but he said I wasn't able to go. I cried. John carried me upstairs and read to me until my head hurt. He said I must take care of myself for his sake. He said only I could help myself get better. Chapter 9. The baby is well and happy and doesn't have to stay in this room. If we hadn't used it, the baby would have. What a lucky escape. I wouldn't want my child in this room. I'm glad John kept me here. I can handle it better than a half baby. I don't mention it to them anymore, but I keep watching the wallpaper. There are things in it that only I know. Behind the pattern, the shapes get clearer every day. It's always the same shape, like a woman creeping. I don't like it at all. Chapter 10. I wish John would take me away from here. It's hard to talk with John about my case. He is so wise and loves me so much, but I tried talking last night. It was moonlight. The moon shone like the sun. I hate to see it sometimes. It creeps so slowly. It always comes in through one window or another. John was asleep, and I didn't want to wake him. So I kept still and watched the moonlight on the wallpaper. The faint figure behind seemed to shake the pattern. I got up softly to see if the paper moved. When I came back, John was awake. "What is it, little girl?" he said. "Don't walk around or you'll get cold." I thought it was a good time to talk, I told him. I was not getting better here. I wished he would take me away. "Why, darling?" he said. "Our lease ends in 3 weeks. We can't leave before. The repairs at home have not been finished. I can't leave town now. If you were in danger, I would. But you are better. I am a doctor, dear, and I know. You are gaining weight and color. Your appetite is better. I feel much easier about you." "I don't weigh more," I said, "and my appetite is worse in the morning." "Bless her heart," he said with a hug. "She can be as sick as she wants, but now let's sleep and talk in the morning." "And you won't go away?" I asked sadly. "How can I, dear? It's only 3 weeks more. Then we will take a trip while Jenny gets the house ready. Really, dear, you are better. Better in body, maybe." I began but stopped. He looked at me sternly. "My darling," he said, "for our sake and our child's sake, don't think that. It is a false and foolish idea. Trust me as a doctor when I tell you so." So I said no more, and we went back to sleep. He thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. I lay there for hours thinking about the wallpaper. By daylight, the pattern is confusing and annoying. The color is ugly, and the pattern is torturous. You think you understand it, but it changes. It feels like a bad dream. The outside pattern looks like a fungus. The paper changes as the light changes. When the sun shines in, it changes quickly. That is why I always watch it. By moonlight, it looks different. At night, it becomes bars. The outside pattern and the woman behind it are clear. I didn't realize it at first, but now I am sure it is a woman. By daylight, the woman is quiet. I think the pattern keeps her still. Chapter 11. I lie down a lot now. John says it is good for me. He made me lie down after each meal. It is a bad habit, for I don't sleep. I am getting a little afraid of John and Jenny. He seems strange sometimes. Maybe it is the paper. I watched John when he didn't know. I've caught him looking at the paper. And Jenny, too. I caught Jenny with her hand on it once. She didn't know I was there. When I asked her, she looked angry. She said the paper stained everything. She wished we would be more careful. I know she was studying that pattern. I am determined that nobody will find it out but me. Life is more exciting now. I have something to watch. I eat better and am more quiet. John is pleased to see me improve. He laughed and said I seemed better despite the wallpaper. I laughed too. I didn't tell him it was because of the wallpaper. I don't want to leave this place now. There is a week more, and I think that will be enough. I'm feeling much better. I don't sleep much at night, but I sleep in the daytime because under the sunlight, the wallpaper looks tiresome and confusing. There are always new shoots of the fungus. I cannot keep count of them. Chapter 12. There is something about that paper's smell. I noticed it when we first came into the room. Now we have had a week of fog and rain. The smell is strong. It creeps all over the house. I find it in the dining room, parlor, hall, and stairs. It gets into my hair. Even when I go for a ride, I smell it. Such a strange odor. I have spent hours trying to find out what it smells like. It is not bad, but it lasts. In this damp weather, it is awful. I wake up in the night and find it hanging over me. It used to disturb me. I thought of burning the house to get rid of the smell, but now I'm used to it. The only thing I can think of is the color of the paper, a yellow smell. There is a funny mark on this wall near the floor, a streak that runs around the room. It goes behind every piece of furniture except for the bed. I wonder how it was done and who did it. Round and round it goes. It makes me dizzy. Chapter 13. I discovered something at last. After watching it last night, I finally figured it out. The front pattern moves because the woman behind shakes it. Sometimes there are many women, sometimes just one, crawling fast and shaking it. In bright spots, she stays still. In shady spots, she grabs the bars and shakes them. She tries to climb through, but the pattern strangles her. The pattern has many heads. It strangles them and turns them upside down, making their eyes white. I think the woman gets out in the daytime. I'll tell you why. I've seen her. I see her from all my windows. It's the same woman, always creeping. Most women don't creep by daylight. I see her in the shaded lane creeping up and down. I see her in the grape arbors creeping around the garden. I see her on the road, under the trees, creeping along. When a carriage comes, she hides under the blackberry vines. I don't blame her. It's embarrassing to be caught creeping by daylight. I lock the door when I creep. I can't do it at night. John would suspect. John is so strange now. I don't want to upset him. I wish he would take another room. I don't want anyone to get that woman out at night but me. I wonder if I could see her from all the windows at once. But I can only see out of one window at a time. Even though I always see her, she may creep faster than I can turn. I watched her in the open country, creeping as fast as a cloud shadow. Chapter 14. If only the top pattern could be removed from the bottom one. I plan to try little by little. I found something funny, but I won't tell you now. It's not good to trust people too much. There are only 2 days left to remove this paper, and I think John is noticing. I don't like the look in his eyes. I heard him ask Jenny many questions about me. She gave a good report. She said I slept a lot in the daytime. John knows I don't sleep well at night, even though I'm quiet. He asked me many questions, pretending to be loving and kind, as if I couldn't see through him. Still, I don't blame him, as he has been sleeping under this paper for 3 months. I think John and Jenny are both affected by it. Chapter 15. Hurrah! This is the last day. But it's enough. John is staying in town overnight. Jenny wanted to sleep with me, but I told her I'd rest better alone. That was clever, for I wasn't alone. When it was moonlight and the woman began to crawl and shake the pattern, I got up to help her. We pulled and shook the paper, and by morning we had peeled off yards of it, a strip as high as my head and extending halfway around the room. When the sun came, the pattern laughed at me. I declared I would finish it today. We leave tomorrow, and they are moving my furniture back. Jenny looked at the wall in surprise, but I told her I did it out of spite. She laughed and said she wouldn't mind doing it herself, but I must not get tired. How she betrayed herself. But I am here, and no one touches this paper but me. She tried to get me out of the room, but I said it was quiet and clean now. I said I would sleep and not wake up for dinner. So now she is gone, the servants are gone, and the things are gone. Only the big bedstead is left with the canvas mattress. We will sleep downstairs tonight and take the boat home tomorrow. I enjoy the room now that it's bare again. How those children ran around here. This bedstead was chewed up, but I must get to work. I locked the door and threw the key down the front path. I don't want to go out, and I don't want anyone to come in until John comes. I want to surprise him. I have a rope here that Jenny didn't find. If the woman gets out and tries to escape, I can tie her. But I forgot. I can't reach far without something to stand on. This bed won't move. I tried to lift and push it until I was sore, and then I got so angry that I bit off a piece of it, but it hurt my teeth. Then I peeled off all the paper I could reach while standing on the floor. Chapter 16. All those heads, eyes, and fungus growths laugh at me. I am getting angry enough to do something desperate. Jumping out of the window would be good exercise, but the bars are too strong. Besides, I wouldn't do it. I know it's improper and might be misunderstood. I don't like to look out of the windows. There are so many creeping women. They creep so fast. I wonder if they all come out of the wallpaper like I did, but I am tied up now by my hidden rope. You won't get me out there. I suppose I have to get back behind the pattern at night, and that's hard. It's so nice to be out in this big room and creep around. I don't want to go outside. I won't, even if Jenny asks me to. Outside, you have to creep on the ground, and everything is green instead of yellow. But here, I can creep smoothly on the floor, and my shoulder fits in the long smooch around the wall, so I can't lose my way. Why, there's John at the door. You can't open it. How he calls and pounds, now he's crying for an axe. It would be a shame to break that beautiful door. John, dear, I said gently, the key is down by the front steps, under a plantain leaf. That silenced him for a moment. Then he said quietly, Open the door, my darling. I can't, I said. The key is down by the front door, under a plantain leaf. I repeated several times, gently and slowly, until he had to go and see. He got it and came in. He stopped short by the door. What is the matter? He cried. What are you doing? I kept creeping, but I looked at him over my shoulder. I've got out at last, I said, despite you and Jane, and I've pulled off most of the paper, so you can't put me back. Why did he faint? But he did, right across my path by the wall, so I had to creep over him every time.